So in this video, our main goal will be we will create one simple Spring Boot application. We will create, let's say, one microservice or one endpoint, and then we will try to run that Spring Boot application by using Docker or inside Docker. So to start with, if you don't have Docker in your local laptop or computer, right? So you have to go to Docker official website. So you need to download this Docker desktop so you can push the images, you can run your container, so you can officially download the Docker desktop here. So it have all the, either you can download for Mac or Windows or Linux depending on what machine you are using, right? So this will be your first step to start with Dockerization in Spring Boot. So go to Docker official website, download the Docker in your system, open Docker, it will look something like this. So you will able to see your containers, images, volumes, builds, right? So you will able to see, and sign in is not mandatory because anyways we will be running everything in local. You can create your account, but at this point or for this video, sign in is not required, because without signing we will able to push the images and run our Spring Boot application in the container on your local Docker. Let's go through first very basic Docker command. So this is very basic, you can say cheat sheet, or the different commands which are useful for Java and Spring Boot developers or all kind of software engineers basically. So I will attach this PDF file in this video also. So these are again very basic commands, not too much into DevOps, but very basic command, how to see the container, see the images, build your image, start your container, and then the most useful will be Docker Compose, that we will see in the next video how to use Docker Compose. And with the help of Docker Compose we can run multiple applications within just one command. Once your Docker is set up on your machine, right, so you can validate by giving the command Docker version. So it will give you what version of Docker is available on your machine, and you can also do a Docker info. So it will give you all the details of your Docker, right, which is present in your machine. So this is how, so these are two basic commands you can use to verify that Docker is running fine on your system. So now let's start creating the Spring Boot project. Just go to Spring Initializer. You can select Maven, Java, and Spring Boot latest version, and I will be using Java 17. But if you want, you can use Java 21 or Java 23. So anything is fine. So only thing is your image, Docker image will change based on the Java version, right? So let's say I will just create a simple patient service here, and for the dependency you only need web dependency here, because we will be creating one endpoint, right? Or we will be creating one API or microservice which will be called via endpoint. So we don't need any other dependency specifically to run or build Docker, because we have already installed Docker. So nothing is required in this Spring Initializer. So you only need Spring Web, and yeah, then you can select these properties. Once you download, right, so your project will look like this. So it will have one patient application, or whatever name you have given for your project. It will have one main file with Spring Boot application annotation, and then it will have a pom.xml, and in pom.xml if you see, only web dependency is there, Spring Boot starter web, right? So now what we will do is, now we will create one controller file. So I will just say here patient controller. So this patient controller will be my REST controller, right? So we will use REST controller annotation, and here I will have, let's say, public string get all patients, right? So basically this will be our API. So I will just say here get mapping, and inside this I will give the path. So I will just say get all patients. So this is very common, right? Like this is how you create a REST controller and different endpoints. And here I will just return all patients, right? So of course in real production application you will connect with database, pull the patients, and then send it as a JSON. But this is just a demo of Docker, so we will not go into that deep. But yes, we will create some of the endpoints, and then we will create or run this application via Docker image. So this is all set, right? So you will see we have one endpoint, we have Spring Boot application. Now to run the Spring Boot application, right, you want to build this project first, because if you see here, right, we don't have target folder yet, because our main fat jar, or you can say the jar of this Spring Boot application will be created when we will do Maven clean package on this project. So I will go to terminal here, So I will just do maven clean package. So what it will do, it will build your project, it will compile and will create a jar file. So if you see, the build is success and now we are able to see this target folder, right? So if I go inside target folder, this is our jar file which we want to run in the Docker. That's why we have to use maven clean package, because we need the final jar which will contain all the source code of our application. So now our next step will be, we will add the Docker file, right? So I will just right click on my project and I will go to new and I will go here Docker file, right? So I will just click on that. So if you see here, the Docker file is created with very basic commands, right? So as of now, don't get confused with this Docker compose. So I just created and I will show you in next video, but by default you will not have this Docker compose, so you can ignore this file as of now. So we created a Docker file, right? So now if you see, in the last video we discussed, we have the base image, we have label, we have entry point, right? And then our main purpose of running, our main goal is we have to run this jar on some system, right? So that's why we need base image which should have Java 17, and on that system we want to run this jar, right? That's the whole purpose of Docker. So for example, if I will ask you now, like, can you run this jar? So what you will do, you will find some machine in which Java 17 is installed. It can be either Windows based machine or it can be either Linux based machine, right? And then you will install Java 17 on that machine, and then you will simply run command like Java minus jar and then name of the jar, which will run your application. So basically steps are same. So with the help of Docker, we are just automating all the steps, right? So now I want some base image in which Java 17 should be there, and I want my image should be lightweight. I don't want to run entire operating system, right? Then I can move to virtual machine only, right? So that's why we have to search for lightweight image for Linux based, in which Java 17 should be there. So for that I will be using here Amazon based image. So I will copy this. So this is I will be using, so I will be using Amazon Corretto, and I want 17 JDK, and Alpine is like a very lightweight Linux based system, right? So this, that's why we are using Alpine. So now you will have a question like, why I am not using open JDK image, right? So in the Java community, Amazon Corretto image is very famous. So if I go to Google, right, Amazon Corretto, right, so you will get this link and you will able to see like it is very lightweight and it is production ready distribution of OpenJDK, and it have no cost, and it is of course backed by Amazon. So that's why we are using this image, and it is no cost, production ready, lightweight, which supports OpenJDK. That's why we are using this image Amazon Corretto, and I am using Java 17, so I'm using here 17. And now the next step is, let's say now our system is here which have Linux and which have JDK 17. Now we want to run this jar, right? So what I will say, copy and then the path of my jar. So if you see, the path is in the target folder, and then this is the path and this is the name of my jar. And once you copy this jar, the entry point will be Java minus jar name of the jar. So basically it's a command, right? So this command will be run by Docker when we will run this image in the container. So now this is our Docker file basically, right? So this Docker file contains very basic instruction. So we are saying I want this image to be downloaded first, and then once you download this image, I want to copy this jar, and whenever my image will be run on any container, this will be my entry point. So very simple point, like nothing complex so far, only we are seeing like how it is done in Docker, but you already know like how you will do in your machine or any other server manually, right? So this is, we are just using Docker, so we have to follow some commands. So now let's try to build this image, right? So as we discussed yesterday, first point will be to create an image, or we can say Docker build, and then we will be running that image in container, right? So for build command, so what I will say here, Docker build, and then I will give tag, and then my image name is, let's say I will say patient latest, and then I will give dot. So once I run this command, so you will see here it is successful now. What it did basically, it downloaded our all the base image, which is Amazon Corretto, and then it copied our jar file, right? And then it exported to image, and then it have written the image, and this is our image ID. If you want to see the image, right, so what I usually do is I will just go to Docker desktop, and I will go to images, and you will able to see like these are all the images, and it was created some seconds ago, right? And the size is 311 MB. So if I use OpenJDK image, right, so if I show you this one which I created with OpenJDK, so it is around a 521 MB. So only by using Amazon Corretto and Alpine, I was able to reduce the image size with more than 200 MB. But in the upcoming videos, when we go little bit advanced, so I will make one video to show you like how we can achieve this under 70 MB also. So that are little bit advanced techniques that normally they will not ask you in interviews, but for your knowledge purpose. So I will make that video by end of this series, that how you can even go from 300 MB to 50 MB also, or 70 MB also. So if I will go here, I will just say Docker, I want list all images, right? Docker images. So usually you don't have to memorize the command, so you can Google or you can refer anything. So that's what I do. So I also personally don't remember most of the commands. I only remember Docker build, Docker run, because that 2-3 commands you will use frequently, right? So you don't have to memorize everything. So if I will go to the terminal and I will say Docker images, so it will give me all the images. And if you see, the latest one is 5 minutes ago that we created, right? Now our next step is we want to run this image in container, right? So that's why we created an image so we can run our code, right? So now the benefit of Docker, like we discussed in last video, is if I push this image anywhere, or if I give you this image, then this will work on any machine as long as you are using Docker to run this image. That's why it solves the problem that it works on my machine and it will not work on production, because inside this it have everything. It have your JDK 17, it have your jar file, and it have like base image Linux based, which have everything which is required to run the code, and it itself have the source code, right? That's why this image you share to anyone, it will run no matter where you want to run. We will run on our local, either we will run on production server, either we will run on thousands of containers. This image behavior will not change. So let's see how to run it, right? So now to running it, so I usually use this command. So what I will do, Docker run, so I will say Docker run. So now here, if you see, right, we have to give two port number. Basically one will be the host port, another one will be the container port. So as of now I want same port number, right? So I want container port also point to 8080, and local also, host also 8080, right? So what I will say here, 8080, and then I will give my image name. So I will say here patient latest, right? So if I will run this command, you will see our Docker will initiate what was our entry point. So if I go to entry point, basically this was triggered. That's why we were able to see the Spring Boot logs, right? Our application started. So now if you see here, we are able to see, and we are able to see our Tomcat server started on 8080, but it started within the container. So now if you want to see the container, right, so you can go to containers here in a Docker desktop, and you will see here this port, right? 8080 is now running, right? Sorry, this is the past one, this one. So 8080 is in the running mode, right? And then it is also giving you the option if you want to trigger it from here. And then if you want to see the container action, so basically you can also see everything here also. So for example, if you want to see view details or logs, right, so you can click here, you will able to see the logs, you will able to see inspect, right? And you will able to go deeper if you have to go, like if you are stuck with some issues, it will give you everything or all the logs that you need to basically debug your issue. So now let's say our application is now running. So I will go to Postman. So I will trigger get all patients here. So you will see here all the patients are coming, or whatever our API response was, it is coming now, right? So now if I give any other point, let's say if I want to give let's say get patient by id, for example. So now if you see, it is giving me not found, it's not present in our source file. So if you want to make some changes and deploy again, right, so what's the process for that? You have to follow the same process. But in the upcoming videos, when we go little bit advanced by end of this series, I will show you how you can use the watch build also, so that side by side your changes will get reflected in the container. But as of now, you don't have to go that deep. But if you have to make any changes, you have to follow the same pattern. So what I will do here, so I will go to patient controller, I will copy this, I will just say get patient by id, just an example, right? So I will just say here patient by id, right? So now what I need to do again is, just for your revision also, first thing is you need to make the jar of the changes which you have made, right? So what I will do here, I will again use maven clean package. So once I do maven clean package here, so you will see like our code is getting compiled, and now our this jar file is now changed. So this jar file is basically now our latest. Now our next step is to create an image, because if you see in the docker and if you go in the image, this image still was created 7 minutes ago with the different source code, right? Inside this it have our old jar file. So now what I will do here, I will again give the same command and with the same name, right? Docker build tag is patient latest. So now it is again doing same thing. When we did this, it copied our latest jar file, right? And now if I go here, it was saying created 0 second ago, right? Because it's the new one. But if I go to postman, you will still see it's a not found, because this url is hitting the container, and that container have our old jar or old code is running, right? That's how your deployment. So imagine this is your production server. Now you have changed the code in your local, your image is ready. Now you want to deploy that changes to the server, right? Now the same thing you need to do here. So what I will say here, I will stop this one, and now I will again do docker, right? So once I did this, so now our application is getting deployed again with the latest jar file. And now if I go here, and you see get all patient is also working, get patient by id is also working, right? So now our latest code is deployed. You have successfully learned how to download docker, how to use docker in your local, what are the normal or common docker commands. Then we downloaded spring boot project, and then we created, this docker file. And inside docker we saw what are the different base images and why we are using amazon corretto, and then how we are copying the jar, and then how we are building the image and running the container. So we were able to do all that things. So in next video we will see how to do docker compose. So basically in docker compose we will be running the multiple services at one command, because now if you don't know docker compose, what you will do, if you have 10 microservices, you will go in one microservice, create an image, then run on container, right? But docker compose will take care of that with all the steps in one file. So I will see you in the next video.